up, but I gotta get my stuff out the way early. So this may not be an extensive live. I pray y'all doing amazing. This is Connections Confessions with Clarity live segment that we do here at Next Level Transformation Talk. And so we dive into uncovering the unspoken when it comes to connections, and we dive in and release confessions, right, with clarity. And so, as you saw on the title, this particular live is about the courage to speak your truth. But I wanted to add, you find the courage to speak your truth without rejection, right? A lot of times, and I know some people personally who don't, I hope y'all can hear me. I got my AirPods in. I know a lot of people who don't speak their truth because they're fear of rejection. They're scared of being rejected. They're scared of being dismissed. They're scared of um, being seen as weak, being seen as someone who doesn't have, you know, any say so in the matter. And I'm here to support you and encourage you, whether it's you, whether it's somebody that you know, for you guys to speak your truth. However painful it may be for the other person, speak your truth, right? Regardless of the fear of rejection. A lot of times you'd be surprised of how many people prefer truth over lies, whether you feel like it may spare their feelings or not. And this is something that we come across definitely in relationships for sure, where people like to spare the other person's feelings, whether it's personally, whether it's professionally, right? Whether it's friends, intimate relationships, you like to spare the other person's feelings or emotions in a sense. And so you don't give the truth, you don't tell the truth. You put yourself in a position of not necessarily lying, but prolonging the ultimate truth, right? You try to avoid it as much as possible to spare the other person's feelings. And so this is me just supporting you and encouraging you to just let you know that you need to find the courage to speak your truth. It will not just help the other person, but it helps you. It frees you. It opens you to the possibility of different. It opens you the possibility of better, however this situation or conversation may unfold. But being in a space energetically to speak your truth, regardless of rejection or not, right? You know that you needed to release what you needed to release. And a lot of times that's what we hold ourselves down and keep ourselves stagnant and keep ourselves limited in that situation because the fear of rejection. We get in a space where we're just like, I'm afraid, right? I don't know what they're going to say. I don't know how they're going to react. I don't know. You know, I didn't have some people be like, I didn't say that. I didn't tell you the truth because of me. I didn't want to hurt your feelings, or I didn't say this, or no. Speak your truth. I am definitely one, for sure. Tell me the truth. But don't lie to me. I I have very tough skin. I can heal. I can bounce back. Tell me the truth. Don't lie. I don't care how you feel like it'll make me feel. And I am definitely one where I'm not going to reject you if you are wanting to come 100 with me. And but you'd be surprised of how many people fail to tell their truth or sit in their truth because they feel like people can't handle their truth. You'd be surprised. It's like we kind of assume very early on, we assume and create assumptions, and in essence, it creates an avalanche of chaos and confusion where you could have just been upfront, kept it a buck, keep it 100, and just was, told your truth, regardless if you feel rejected or not. Chances are, if you're being truthful, they're not going to reject you. They may feel some type of way, they may be mad, they may be in their feelings, but they're not going to reject you because you're being honest, you're being truthful. And so, whether it's personally, professionally, or spiritually, right? Whether you are dealing with family, I'm definitely one. Two, I keep it a buck with family. All the way 100. You can take it however you want to take it. Let it fall off like water or absorb it, where you can actually do some changes. Friends, same thing. It was something like, don't come to me if you don't want truth. Don't come and ask for my opinion if you don't want the honest answer, right? Whether I think the whole objective is for you to release the need to be afraid of rejection. Because who you afraid of? Who you scared of? Just keep it alive. If they don't want to mess with you because you kept it at G, so what? Who you afraid of though? Right? That's how the mindset you have to have when you are sitting and living in your truth. I ain't afraid of nobody, so I'm always be truthful about my thoughts, my feelings, my actions, accountability, responsibility. Always sit in truth, right? Because it's a freeing energy for not just you, but for the connection, for the relationship, for the situation at play. So the fear of rejection part, I get it, right? I understand it. Some people do fear rejection. Some people do fear of being dismissed or being rejected, being disregarded. I get it, right? But at the same time, who you afraid of? Who you afraid of? So for you to for you to be afraid of speaking your truth, it's not that you're afraid of the other person, you're fear of you, of what you're going to feel like when you speak your truth. That's where you're afraid of. That's where you are scared of saying, is who you become when you live in your truth. And hey, Leanna, that be the thing. It's not necessarily you are afraid of what the other person gonna say. You kind of afraid of you sitting your truth and then you moving forward, living in your truth, how that's gonna really show up. Chances are, once you speak your truth, and that be the thing, it doesn't matter the situation. It doesn't matter who it's with. It doesn't matter if it's family. If it doesn't matter if it's friends. It doesn't matter if it's a significant other. It doesn't matter if it's professionally, right? In your business, in your job. If you live and speak through your truth, they can only respect you, period. They can't reject you. But our minds have been programmed where we don't speak our truth because we fear of rejection, right? Not understanding truth gains respect. Aw, thank you, beauty. And that be the thing. So many people fail to understand that. So they get the R's confused. Where you speak your truth, you feel like they're gonna set you aside unless they are narcs. Even if they're narcs, honestly, right? A narc puts on a personification. They put on a false mask, right? So what they show up is not what they truly think or truly feel about you, right? Chances are narcs show out and act the most with people they actually respect and they're threatened by. So when you speak your truth, it's not necessarily in a space of rejection. It's just a space of your fear of being respected in a higher authority because you're living in truth. Now, I understand how difficult it is to tell truth because it with truth comes accountability and responsibility. So it's not that easy to speak truth. I get that for sure. Because like I say all the time, y'all hear me say on videos, on the lives, people are allergic to accountability, right? They need to be taking some Benadryl or something in order to tolerate accountability, which is sad, right? But it's the thing, people are allergic to accountability. And so they use a sense of rejection and not to sit in accountability, right? You find that a lot of people say, I didn't come and keep it a buck with you because I fear what you was gonna say or I fear what you was gonna do. But in all actuality, they didn't come and keep it a buck because they had to own up what they did. That's literally what it all boils down to it, right? They use the fear of rejection as a sense to not take accountability and responsibility for the part that they played, right? When you take accountability and responsibility, you have no problem being truthful, no problem being a honey, no problem being upfront because you're not fearful. You understand your part you played. You understand they don't want to put in the same work you put in. Very true. Very true. That is definitely a lot of people, and you'd be surprised. We were at that point ourselves as well. We was at a point where we didn't want to put in the work. We like to walk around in Lululand and act like things like our stuff didn't stink. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, when you continue to not put in the work, then you can no longer question why you're not where you desire to be or no longer where you desire to become, or you can't question why you're still in the same position 10 years later. you can't question that because you decide not to put in the work. And that goes for you can't be upset or can't wonder why none of your relationships work out because you decide not to live in your truth. However that may look, however that may show up, right? I'm not saying that everybody lies. I'm not saying that everybody withholds information, but I do understand everybody moves different with certain people to protect other people. And so if you just make a conscious effort to live within your truth, however people may respond, however people may react, that's not your problem. Other people's reactions is not your problem, right? Because you walk authentically in who you are. How they respond, how they act, you can't control that. You only can control yourself. And if you're adamant of living a lie as a sense of fear of rejection, then who are you really afraid of? Are you afraid of you or you're, you know, afraid of the person that you're not wanting to be truthful with? Prime example, I had a situation, right? A friendship where my friend at the time, we were very, very close. I'm a very transparent person when with my close relationships. I'm very open, very honest. But in this situation, it wasn't reciprocated. And I asked her, one time I asked her, I said, why do you have a fear? I have a hard time living that, but I'm glad I came across this. Oh, I appreciate you. It's going to take time. It's not easy to live in your truth because we are living in a world that is, it moves through lies and manipulation. So it's not easy to be authentically true and live in that. But if you put in the conscious effort, you realize the more you start living in your truth, the more you start living in your authentic being, regardless of how people may accept it or may not accept it, you find how freeing your mind, your body, and your spirit really becomes. And that was one of the things when I was just explaining with my friend. I asked her, I said, why do you, because I see past what people do, I'm a seer. I see past what people say. I see the truth. Whether you say it or not, I see it. I know it. It's revealed to me. And so I asked her, why do you not feel comfortable just being all honest with me? Why do you keep secrets? Why do you hold back? And it's because she fears of looking a certain way. And I said, it doesn't matter if how you look, this is your truth. It doesn't matter how it may be perceived by other people. This is what is going on in your life. This is who you are. This is what you're doing. And so I have family members who do the same thing, who lie. And I know the truth about how they move and how they act and how it's what are you really fearful of? Because people are not dumb. And when you refuse to speak your truth, you playing on people's intelligence as if they can't see type situation. You know what I mean? And so at the end of the day, are you really fooling the people or are you fooling yourself? That's the question you got to ask yourself. Because granted, you may feel as if you're protecting yourself, but in all actuality, you're fooling yourself. And it's hindering you from living in your authentic truth, but it's also hindering of people to really respect you and how you deserve to be respected because you're having a hard time accepting who you are. Speaking your truth is you taking the step of accepting this is where I am right now. I've been there. I used to be a bitch big time. I wasn't always pleasant. I was not always nice. I was real mean back in my day. And it took a very long time for me to speak and be in my truth and be like, yeah, I'm that chick. I used to be like, no, I'm not mean. Just people just don't understand me. Nah, I was mean. And I was because I was angry. It was a lot of unhealed wounds, which made me angry and made me bitter. And I projected big time. Aw, thank you, beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I projected big time. for many years because I didn't care about the collateral damage. I wanted people to hurt like I was hurting. But how could they know I was hurting if I didn't live in my truth? If I didn't accept who I was at that moment? And you'd be surprised. There's so many people out here who want help, right? They want to relieve the pain that they've been carrying for so many years. They want to relieve it. They want to release it. They want to get help of how to transmute it. Yet they can't live in a truth in order to accept where they're currently at, to accept the pain that they're currently dealing with. You'd be surprised, right? It's situations, it's different for everybody, right? Nobody's saying that it's black and white. There's definitely gray, as you can see. Gray does exist. And when you I just want to say this, when you come across people who say that it's strictly black and white, that's because they haven't adapted a level of understanding yet. Once you gain a level of understanding, patience, and compassion for oneself, but also for others, then you understand there is some gray area. You understand that people's situation, people's journeys is not just straight and narrow. It's different things with it. That's why speaking your truth requires you living in your truth, but it also requires you to understand that the fear of rejection is not from others, it's from oneself. Okay? This is where you adapt a level of understanding of oneself. And again, it's not easy speaking your truth because you got to admit that you play some parts. Okay? Speaking your truth is just not, I'm the way that I am because they did what I did. That's not speaking your truth. You're actually stating the situation based upon another person's perspective. I know. Speaking your truth is saying, I allowed myself to be in this position for so many years, for so long. It's not being reciprocated. I'm trying to learn unconditionally, but about that. Well, I want to touch on that. When you live unconditionally, then you don't look to be fueled through who you're living by, if that makes sense. When you live and love unconditionally, it's just given. You don't look for it to be reciprocated. When you look for it to be reciprocated, then you live and love conditionally. It has bounds, it has limits. You love this person to this max if they are reciprocating it to you in this way or that way. So when you love unconditionally, you don't expect nothing in return. You just love them. When you live unconditionally, you don't expect nothing in return. You're just going to always do for people. You're just going to always care for people. You're always going to show up for people. It doesn't matter if they reciprocate it. It doesn't matter if they even say thank you. You just going to always do it. And that's where the misconception in a lot of things is when people say, I love unconditionally or I live unconditionally. You're not accepting the fact that you're still accepting something in return. That's not unconditional. That's condition. You got requirements with your love. And a lot of times that's a hard truth for some people because when you ground yourself in your spiritual foundation, right? You know that Heavenly Father loves us unconditionally. Whether we rob a bank or not, He still loves us. He still loves us even if we commit crimes. You'd be surprised. He's not happy, but it doesn't change His love for us, right? So when people say, I love unconditionally, do you really? Because if they don't show up the way that they want to for you, are you still going to love them? Oh, yeah, that be the thing because we say, for example, let's talk about family. We say we love our parents unconditionally, but if they don't show up as the parent we want them to, our love starts to alter. Our love starts to change. We start to become angry. We start to become bitter. We start to hold some resentment. So you really don't love unconditionally, even when we're expecting them to do that with us. When we didn't steal from them, when we didn't lie to them, when we didn't hurt their feelings, when we didn't, mess up their credit, like we're expecting them to, you get what I mean? So it's like when you say you, even if you love somebody to the death of you, you love hard. I'm one who loves hard. But it was people where I did not love unconditionally. Truth be told, I was expecting them to show up the way that I was showing up for them. I had to learn what loving unconditionally meant in order for me to say that I do it. You can't just say you do it and then put requirements this, and this. Yeah. And sometimes you do. You learn through experience, right? You don't know. We're all doing this thing called life together. And each day that we have breath in life, each day is a lesson. It is. It's tough. But it's something that it's not impossible, right? Toughness builds character. And that's how you have to look at it. It's like you're gaining stripes in the process. Granted, I could have used less stripes. I didn't need to get all the battle wounds and battle scars, but it put me in a position to be able to have a higher understanding and to be able to help others. And that's how you have to transmute it. Life has been tough, life has been hard, but it puts you also, once you learn those lessons, it puts you in a space to help others, right? If you're a parent, it helps you to help your children not to have so many battle scars themselves. Okay, I know life is not fair. It's not. It's not fair, but it's not impossible to live authentically. And this is when speaking your truth comes into play because it allows life to be a little bit more easier, right? Especially when you're dealing with people pleasing. If you be honest with people, you realize you don't have much stress and anxiety because you constantly have to be people pleasing. No, you keep it a buck. I can't do this with you. I can't. I'm burnt out. I need time. Whether they accept it or not, that's not your problem. But you're being truthful with yourself. You're being honest. And I had to overcome that too. People pleasing is very hard to overcome. Mhm. Oh, for sure. And they don't just use you monetarily. They use you emotionally. They use you physically. They use you spiritually. Understand? Yes, users and leeches is everywhere. And I'm gonna be honest, my experience, not just personally, but professionally, coaching clients, more people be used mentally, emotionally, and spiritually versus monetarily. Because at the end of the day, if you realize people moving left with your money, you learn that lesson quick. But when people use you mentally and people use you emotionally and people use you even spiritually, it takes you a very long time to learn that lesson. It takes you a very long time. So it's the using the leeches, it shows up so different. And this is where speaking your truth comes into play. Because when you really feel like you could tell, if you're really in tune in oneself, then you can tell where you're being used, right? If you're really making a conscious effort to heal from within, then you can tell. Yeah. But why do you feel the need to be included? Is that something, or do you struggle with other unhealed wounds that you feel like you have to be included in spaces that you're not welcome? That's a question you got to ask yourself. Because if they wanted you there, okay, day ones, if they wanted you there, they would include you, right? You know that saying where if they want to, they would, right? When people be like, I'm too busy to, I was so busy I can't text back type situation. If they wanted to, they could. If they wanted to, they would. And so if they wanted to really include you, They would. Day ones or day 500. It don't matter. If they really wanted you, you would have been included. And you have to just come to that acceptance, right? And just be like, okay, my light is too bright for them. That's why they didn't want to include me. My light was too blinding for their darkness. Day ones or not. And you have to be okay with that. No hate, no anger with it. You just got to be okay with oneself. Don't force yourself in spaces that you're not welcome, because that will only hurt you in the long run. That I learned from experience, for sure. I try to force myself in spaces. Yeah, I try to force myself in spaces so many times because I wanted to be included. I wanted to be a part of the family, dealing with my old in laws. Like, I wanted to be included so bad. And I end up hurting myself more. And then I got to a point where I value myself more. I truly value myself more. I was just like, they just can't handle my light. That's why they never included me. That part. That part. I made them nervous, so they didn't want to include me. You gotta flip the script and know who you are, baby. You can't allow them and their ways, their actions, their mindset to diminish your worth and your value. Cause you really that girl, you really that guy. You understand me? That's why they don't want to include you, cause you show out. You take all the attention, and they big mad, so they don't want to include you. So you too much for them, too much for them, gang. You too much for 'em. And that's fine. Always move selectively. Your spirit deserves it. You can't. Your spirit is too precious to be consumed about around everything. You have to be selective. You have to be selective. Because we're if you didn't know, I'm gonna tell you. Our spirit, our hearts, and our minds are like a sponge. We absorb everything. Okay. And and if you find yourself being around every and anything, you consume every and anything. So you have to be selective to protect your mind, to protect your heart, but also to protect your spirit. So you gotta be selective. It's not even an option. So don't feel bad being selective. You doing yourself a service. Being selective is showing that you really care about yourself. Oh, this was fun. Thank you for chatting with me. Beautiful. I'm happy. I'm happy I'm putting you on. I appreciate you. Thank you for everybody who tuned in, who dived in, who chatted in. I appreciate y'all. Again, this is my weekly, I think I'm gonna do every Tuesday for these live segments. I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna maneuver the live segments, but I think I'm gonna do every Tuesday. Videos be dropping when spirit moves me. But live segment I may do every Tuesday. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Don't forget that like, subscribe button. Be a blessing, share, right? Share with people who you feel like needed this message, needed some clarity, needed some understanding. But be a blessing, y'all, unto others, but know that you are blessed too. Bye.